Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2020. It is the final day of our super mega massive Uber week of triple best of threes of Doom. And I have Chobra with me here. I'm, of course, Atlas. Chobra, welcome back. Special guest 2 weeks in a row.
Yes, I made it, Mom. 2 weeks in a row.
We've done it. That's why you went out to lunch with your parents the other day. That was to celebrate. Is that what it was for?
Yeah, it was to celebrate me being the longest-standing fill-in caster for League of Legends in Korea.
Look, I mean, no one's going to debate that. No one is going to debate that one iota. Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
But welcome back, and we get some pretty sweet games today. The last one, not entirely sure what our story's going to be. We were sort of discussing this before the broadcast. The two biggest losing streak teams, right, I think, is what we're going to be talking about. I assume that the LCK broadcast themselves have a few key points of the match, but we'll see what they're going to be. The biggest one, though, is going to be DAMWON versus T1, which is right out of the gate. We are not allowed any warm-up time whatsoever, Chobra. This is like out of the fry pan into the fire, as it's going to be Coach Kim's revenge against his former team as well, which is really, really exciting. I'm really looking forward to this match, especially now that DAMWON have been picking up some wins. They're on a 6-game winning streak. It's been 2-0, 2-0, 2-0 for this squad.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it even more interesting, right? Because until, DAMWON was a little shaky, but they seem to have picked it up. They seem to have really got a new groove going on. A couple changes. Obviously, some players like Naguri can't truly change their ways, but maybe for the better, because it adds a lot more action. And I think, like you said, I'm also really a big fan of kind of coaches now starting to play a big role in these storylines across the different leagues, especially here in the LCK.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some of the best ones as well. I don't think it's been spoken about enough, but Hanwha Life's new coach as of the end of last year, Kesman, he was actually the man that brought Uzi to his first LPL title over in China. And he was actually part of the Azubu teams back in the day. He was coach for CJ Entis before he moved over. And while he was in China, he was with RNG, he was with IME, he was with so many different teams until he came back to coach Hanwha Life. So I don't think we've spoken about him enough. He's going to be really exciting to track, especially up against I Love Uv, who stepped back into that head coach role here for this season. But when we're looking at, Coach Kim versus his old organization, it's really fun to see the tendencies that he has as a coach now start getting developed over on T1's side, where they start to fall off a little bit over on the side of DAMWON. Because, of course, remember, they traded coaches. Zephyr is over on DAMWON. Right. And Zephyr was one of the coaches that was the most heavily criticized in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, even from a kind of detached point of view, I always questioned Zephyr a little bit as a coach. Obviously, I don't know all the details, but just based on what I know of Zephyr even before he became a full-time coach, and also just the way that he seemed to be leading teams, I always wondered what the benefit was going to be for a team like T1. Obviously, now things have changed, and Coach Kim, I mean, what I really like is actually, if we look at the third point on the screen with the points of the match, checking how LM is in a 1-1 situation. They're feeling good. They know they have a pretty good standing right now in the league, in the LCK, and so they say, all right, this is a good time to test it. And also, if it works out, it only boosts LM, and if it doesn't, it was still good training. Like, that's what I really like to see in what coaches do.
Yeah, actually, I enjoy the mindset of, we don't need to keep winning. Actually, we just need to win the final. I like that mindset, because actually during the regular season, it's perfect practice to have the pressure of a regular season match without the implications necessarily of being knocked out of the finals. True. And so you can take a few of these extra risks and figure things out, because I think the only place that you truly learn what a player is capable of is on the stage. Like, you can scrim as many games as you want, but it's never going to be the same environment. So I think that you're exactly right. I think that's a really, really cool thing to look at there on T1's side of things. We've got some Dragon Soul stats for you down the bottom here as we have a look at the Dragon Soul percentage number, and T1's is off the charts. As win rate with Dragon Soul is pretty understandable, to be perfectly honest. It's pretty strong, guys. Although we had too many Cloud Souls yesterday. Were you watching yesterday's games? It was just Cloud Soul after Cloud Soul. It was awful. Oh, poor guys.
Oh man. Well, I mean, looking at also what type of Dragon Souls they've had, I mean, DAMWON definitely getting lucky with the Inferno Souls here quite a bit. T1 seems to, I mean, just I guess the sheer number of Dragon Souls they've also run into in their games. It's kind of been evenly spread out across the 4 different types.
Yeah, but also the fact that they've picked up 4 Cloud Souls is interesting to me because you can see that 0 on the DAMWON side. I think it actually shows that DAMWON, if they see a Cloud Soul, they just don't care about it. And they go on to like play for, you know, other parts of the map, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see if a Cloud Soul comes up, whether DAMWON is just going to straight up ignore it and steer clear of it. It might be that they're going to pick up a Cloud Drake on the way to a Soul. Sure. And often when we see like first Drake being a Cloud, we're like, yes, there's like a 100% chance we're going to get a relevant Dragon Soul this game, that sort of stat. But this is going to be the roster. Ghost remains in the AD carry position. Haven't seen Nuclear for a little while. And with a 6-game winning streak, you could imagine that DAMWON have certainly found some rhythm here. I like that Beryl has been brought back in as well. I mean, I think Choba, you and I were talking about Beryl and Hoyt being traded around a little bit at the beginning. But Beryl has retained his spot, and I think for the better as well here for DAMWON. And I think the biggest story is Showmaker finally showing up and actually having some good games.
Yeah, Showmaker seems to just stabilize a decent amount, kind of return to form through that transformation. And then I want to say almost around that pillar, all of DAMWON seems to stabilize a little bit as well. Of course, on the side of T1, we do have Elim playing that first game. I think, you know, the storyline of, can Elim really keep up? I think that's already gone out the window now. He's already proved himself both as a starter and coming in those clutch matches. So I think T1 now can have a little fun with the jungle as well, just depending on where they are in the match and who their opponent is.
Yeah, and we've got Faker versus Showmaker again. We see this oftentimes whenever these two teams are matched up, but look at Faker's round 2 stats, man. He is popping off. We actually, we heard in the interview, I believe, after their most recent match where he played Akali with lethal tempo for some reason, that was a misclick. And he still schooled his opponents on what was the signature Showmaker pick in the Akali that Faker has really enjoyed over the last few matches. Really has been fun to watch. And close to 30% of his team's damage, like CS per minute stats through the roof, just everything looks incredible for Faker.
Yeah, and you know, Showmaker, I mean, he's definitely dragging along on some of the stats, but all around, it's not that Showmaker stats are like terrible or anything like that. Obviously, also the number differential at this level of play is not huge, but Faker just being this consistent. I mean, I know everyone's been kind of tooting the horn for Faker for so long now, but I think there's a good reason. Like you said, you go in with the quote-unquote wrong runes, and yet you're still able to figure out a way to make it work or completely ignore it so it doesn't throw you off, you know, the tempo you have, and then play just your own style anyway.
Yeah, Faker seems to just have his own keystone, which is the GOAT of the mid lane. Not entirely sure. The other thing is, like, you looked at some of the stats for Showmaker, and it said, like, 4th and things like that for mid lane. I think it's actually amazing that Faker has firsts with Chovy in round 2. Like existing, right? Because he had like probably one of the best games that we've ever seen on Zoe yesterday. It was just extraordinary, and he has really been popping off, especially in round 2. So looking forward to, well, sort of especially because they've had like a late resurgence in this particular round. The first few games not necessarily going their way. As we have a look at blue and red side win rates here, you can see round 2, blue side has gone through the roof, which is very interesting. I actually, in my mind, feel like red side is stronger because you do get a lot of these priority picks with the fact that there are so many champions that need to be banned away. And you can see there's going to be a lot of stuff let through here as T1 look for a center ban, but that means Set and Ornn will both get through, and it might be that they decide to ban away one of those instead. We'll see where they are going to go.
It's been interesting to me that we've seen the Aphelios and the Senna kind of being the go-to these days. It looks like the Set will be the ban, which maybe T1 just favoring a little bit more of a stable game. Also, I think recognizing that obviously a bit more of a aggressive champion is harder to go against in the hands of DAMWON, and would rather prefer to give a more team fight oriented champion in Ornn, and then fight against that. But it looks like it will be the Senna, so T1 should be able to secure that Ornn for themselves.
Yeah, they could even lock in Ornn and the Silas here if they'd like to, but we have to remember that this is DAMWON, so you can imagine that the set ban is purely against Noguri because he's so damn good at the champion.
Yeah.
We saw one of the best set performances ever in one of their most recent matches. And now T1 are looking to see what they want to pick away in order to try and keep Noguri down. Noguri even went like full lethality Jace against an Ornn and still managed to win, which is like basically hard countering yourself. It's very weird. As T1 go extraordinarily standard here, as LM is going to be taking away the Jarvan. Canyon immediately going to pick the Trundle into it, but Teddy back to an old favorite in the Misfortune, and we've seen a few of these Misfortunes into center matchups. Feels like something that our LCK players are comfortable with.
Yeah, I think, just more focusing on what they can do as a team, and obviously Misfortune's reliance on really able to burst down entire team waves and then just the priority target in front will keep her kind of away from that Senna more or less in terms of having to compete 1v1 outside of the lane. Also, Teddy obviously just very, very reliable on these traditional AD carries, which is something I thought was interesting. I mean, we had a little bit of information from Coach Kim as well about Teddy, and while he can perform on all these other kind of off-meta picks or other styles in that AD carry, they just haven't been able to prove it in a competitive setting, so they've been kind of tinkering with that. But this round looks like they want to start safe, and we're going to see a Zoe off the back of the game yesterday now coming in for Faker.
Yeah, this is Faker saying, all right, Chovy, you had your time in the sun, it's time for me to hard carry a game. And we have to remember that I believe that game was against an Azir in lane as well. So Faker going up against Showmaker in very similar circumstances to what Chovy was able to perform against B2D yesterday. And in my mind, those are the four best mid laners in the league right now. B2D, Showmaker, Faker, and Chovy. So very excited to see what Faker can now do up against another difficult opponent here in this mid lane. As there's the Maokai ban. Beryl's Maokai popped off in the support position with his Senna by his side. So now T1 thinking about what else they want to take away from him. It might just be the Tahm Kench just to avoid the Senna Tahm Kench lane. But we'll see. There it is. Going to be taken off the board, and we're going to see a lot of supports biting the dust. Yes, that Maokai, that's a support, guys.
Which I think worked out better. I know we've seen plenty of experiments in the top lane, obviously to some success over in the LEC as well. But, we talked about it last week, actually, you and me, Atlas, about Maokai and just being a little questionable in the current laning phase in the top lane. Obviously still has a lot to offer in a team fight setting. It is interesting to me that Showmaker was comfortable picking that Azir with, so many of these strong picks against it for Faker open before going through that second phase. But alas, we'll go through the second wave of bans, and Nautilus will just be picked up as a safe lane there for Misfortune with all the CC. And also, that leaves open, of course, the top lane for T1.
Yeah, and also they can now get the Nautilus and Ornn matchup if they'd like to. We're not expecting Noguri to go for it necessarily, as there's the Jace hover. This is very much a I'm Noguri, I'm styling style of pick. And this is actually what we see a lot out of Zephyr drafts. Zephyr does let his team take a fair bit of control as Beryl locks in the support Scion. I love it. Just pick any tank in the bottom lane with a Senna, and you're A-OK.
Yeah, I mean, I think it proves that.
Yeah, and also, the Scion has incredible wave clear, and now he's going to be the one farming as well. So this will be a really good pressure lane now for DAMWON, which is something that we're not used to saying when it comes to, Senna plus a tank. But this is certainly going to be something that they will have a lot of priority in. There's the Rumble lock-in. So Can has decided to go for the Jarvan Rumble combination and go for a little bit more of this like early to mid game, which I really, really like in tandem with the Zoe, because Faker will be able to control mid game very, very well. LM's going to get himself to a good state, and then you'll have the equalizer over the top of the Cataclysm for these team fights with bullet time to back it up. This is a very strong mid-game composition, and I like that T1 have built their composition for that against DAMWON, who only have one mode, which is I'm fighting you all the time, forever.
Yeah, it really just shows the style of both teams, especially coming into the second round. I think for T1, obviously pulling up their game time a little bit to take objectives a little bit quicker. I will be honest, personally, I'm a little concerned for T1, just knowing what DAMWON's capable of as individual players and their play style, and also what they've picked. I think they have some good answers against T1's lineup, especially if it does go very long. I think that Sion in the front line, and then Senna and Azir, even Jace in the back line, able to put down some damage. Jace can, of course, join the front line for a burst if they need. So T1, I think, have to end it when they hit that peak for their team composition.
Yeah, and they're also going to have to play around topside a lot, because when you're in a DAMWON match, right, the way to analyze it is to look at Noguri's matchup and say, is this a hard counter against him? If not, it's likely that DAMWON's early game is going to be strong. And right now, Jace into Rumble, that doesn't sound like a fun time for Rumble in any way. We're going to need LM to spend some time top lane, and we know that his style certainly is playing around Canna more often than his other laners. So let's see whether he does get that attention as we get onto the Rift for game number 1.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a conscious choice as well, just knowing that they're going up against DAMWON, right? And knowing that it's Noguri, putting a little bit more power for Canna. But we will have to see. I agree with you. At the same time, I wonder if they want to put some effort into shutting down the bottom lane a little bit, because Sion's not going to mind too much of the potential harass coming in from this duo. Of course, Nautilus' CC is always something to be feared. So LM has some choices to make, but one thing's for sure, he probably doesn't have to worry about the mid lane too much with Faker on that Zoe.
Yeah, probably not. We'll see whether Showmaker can put on some extra pressure. You can see he's taken the Comet this time around. We'll give him a little bit more battle stats in that lane. And also, oh my god, Showmaker with the BM. He's taken Easy Hoon's skin. I love it.
That's good.
That's what you want. That is what you want. Especially knowing that Faker isn't going to go off the base skin because that's his thing. Right. As we have a look, 8-9 is the matchup scoreline here between T1 and DAMWON, and that's actually huge for DAMWON because DAMWON didn't come into the league until 2019, which was after T1 took that really big downturn. So very close to an even scoreline here between these two squads. So fun to see who's going to be able to make it out on top. As you can see, Faker taking a bit of damage here from Showmaker in the early game. Not bad. We'll have to keep our eye on how this lane goes. Oh dear, never mind. Cancel everything. Scorch being picked up by Showmaker.
Why? Oh, man. Do we have an answer on that yet? On why that's so popular recently in the LCK?
Not really. We talk about it a lot. Every LS broadcast is brought up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just don't think our LCK players have done the math on Scorch, as Effort does land a Dredgeline bottom lane that he's going to get traded back on pretty quickly. As Beryl's taken Guardian as well, so he's not going to be able to have these like short window trades that the Aftershock will grant them. And Ghost and Beryl do give up a bit of CS here as Teddy and Effort take control.
Yeah, I think this was really smart on Effort's part, knowing the runes on Beryl. And also Sion does take a little while to get ramped up as that hefty front line for whether it's the lane or the team fight. So Nautilus obviously has a lot more power in that realm early on. Although they do lose that initiative immediately by DAMWON actually getting a bit of an experience lead across the duo.
Yeah, and we're having a look at some of Effort's stats here towards the bottom. You can see Vision is the game that Effort likes to play. He's been winning in every single Vision type stat throughout the LCK so far, and that's why I think T1 do have a lot of control as this game goes on. As we were talking about Showmaker having a decent early game, yeah, not when a Trouble Bubble lands. That's when things go bad.
Yeah, right after that level 1, Faker takes the initiative again. And going back to Effort really quick, it also just shows that Effort's very active around the map. I mean, I think Effort's also one of those supports that doesn't really necessarily stick around too much.
As Beryl's in trouble, getting taken down low, but the Guardian Shield is going to keep them alive for now. Doesn't have to blow any summoner spells just yet, but you can see the CS is well and truly in favor of T1 down here.
Yeah, even, with the whole fast and Senna, Sion just not able to get up front right now with the early damage coming in from Misfortune and the threat of Nautilus. Faker coming down to bottom as well.
Yep, he's going to spot Canyon here as it is going to be 4 versus 3. The Trouble Bubble goes wide. Beryl getting taken down to 300 now as the Dawning Shadow not available just yet. They're only level 2 as the Ignite's ticking down onto Beryl. Effort will fall down for first blood though as Faker tanking up the turret for way too long, and it's a botched dive by T1 of all teams as now LM has to flag and drag himself to safety, and Beryl is going to be able to pick up all of this farm underneath the turret.
that seemed so uncharacteristic of them because they kind of missed the angle, especially with the trouble bubble not landing. They still decided to commit to it, but Effort, all he could do was put the Ignite down, start tanking, but he still had 3 members on top of him, so he eventually gets locked down, couldn't get away fast enough. If we look here, the trouble bubble not landing is the first misstep, but that's okay, right? Maybe you pressure them, maybe you try to scare them off. Effort goes in, but he can't go around for the CC. They can't lock down Beryl. Beryl gets out safely, and it's going to be Effort who dies to that Ignite and the tower shot. Canyon going to pick up that kill, and LM, of course, nearly gets in trouble as well until he can dash out with the combo. So T1, I think they wanted to get that shutdown on the lane, right? Shut down the Sion and then make both the Senna and Sion take a lot longer to get into gear, but now they've actually just made a highway for the entire team of DAMWON.
Yeah, this is actually really bad. It's bad on all of those fronts that you're talking about, and Beryl having sort of free reign on that minion wave, when if he had have died, it would have been disaster territory for DAMWON. Even if Beryl does have that teleport towards the bottom side, as now you can see, actually able to get some priority here in this lane, and as soon as that happens, then you get decimating smashes over these minions, and just constantly having to deal with minion waves underneath the turret. So this is really great for DAMWON, but we'll see whether T1 can still make it towards the power spikes that they're going to have around that mid game and get some control. And we'll keep our eyes on this top lane to see whether Canna can get into a good position around then as well. I think he's actually gone back to base already. No, he hasn't. So actually doing fine in this lane here up against Noguri.
Yeah, he's keeping up as best he can. We've already mentioned the, obviously, matchup between Rumble and Jason that early phase. But we are going to have to see some action towards it. They're still focusing on the bottom lane for T1.
Oh my god, he picks the gap as Beryl sidesteps, but it looks like there will still be enough damage here as LM does take down the Sion. Beryl's running after this T1 squad, but I think he's just going to have to focus on some minions as Effort moves towards the bottom brush, and the Sion will be going down. So, second time's the charm here for T1.
Yeah, got a little scared there with the bubble missing again, but this time, again, the importance is if the Nautilus can still get on target, he has so much CC in his kit alone that they're able to lock him down for long enough with the damage coming, the burst coming in from Misfortune and Zoe.
Well, Ghost now might be in a heck of a lot of trouble. He still has Flash available and is going to at least be able to flash away, but don't know why he was that far up in the lane. Is now going to be able to get a snare here onto Effort. He doesn't have Flash, remember, but does have his Ignite as Canyon misses the pillar. Not going to be able to boop him back in the right direction.
Yep, meanwhile, the solo kill did come in for Noguri up in that top lane, so we're starting to see... Yeah, okay. It completely happened, I think, during that fight, and we kind of missed it. But Noguri now getting that lead he needs, and T1 needs to make a conscious decision. Also, we talked about the Drake, Cloud Drake first, so we're in for a treat.
Yeah, we are. So it's the dream. I actually feel like I cast a Curse Canna a lot. I look towards that top side, notice that he's under the turret with a lot of minions there to pick up. He was only 10 CS behind and he had a full health bar, but it just didn't seem to matter at all. This is an example of just too much CC being available here for T1 as 4 members down here towards the bottom side, really looking to try and put a dent into that bottom lane. As Canna's just for some reason sitting at 200 health. As, what? Why are you going for this fight? What? Hello?
Oh, and a nice snipe, I think, is what we're seeing.
Oh, that's what we like to see. But honestly, that was yeah, you don't need to go down with the ship. This isn't the Titanic.
Yeah, this is Noguri's view. And we don't. They're not even talking. We're just hearing the fight on the bottom side. Noguri's not saying it. It's just comms for the fight.
Oh, that was blind too. That's so sick.
Man. That was weird.
There's Emperor's Divide onto Teddy, and he's dead. This is the replay timings have been a little bit unfortunate this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, I think the action being spread out across all the lanes is definitely contributing to that. Sion just using his ultimate to get back to lane to farm, because that's what he's gonna do. He's the carry, right? Yeah, just there to support.
So now I guess we need to name the stations on the map, because obviously Beryl just took a train from mid lane station to bottom lane station. I don't know, is that like, we can go with like King's Cross is, okay. What can that one be? Well, King's Fake Cross is the king of the mid lane, so that has to be mid. And then you name a station for bottom lane. What's a bottom lane sounding station?
Bottom lane sounding station?
from like worldwide famous stations. Are there any other? I only know Flinders Street, but I don't know whether anyone else really does. Is Teddy teleported into this lane?
Wow.
That's a whoops.
That was very bold. They just didn't have any vision.
Bold
It looked
strategy,
like.
Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Oh man, that's a bit unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, in terms of, are there any stations that are really famous worldwide?
So
other
like
than King's Cross.
I mean, King's Cross is a big one.
I guess Grand Central technically.
Yeah, there we go. Grand Central has to be mid lane, doesn't it?
Dang now it's questionable. I mean, we could make their bot lane's seen a lot of traffic, so that could be Grand Central.
Ooh, no, but if it's called Central, I think it has to be.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it has to be mid lane, right?
Yeah, you got me there on the.
That's what I'm sort of
language.
feeling. And so now, like the whole King's Cross thing, maybe like we talk about Noggery being king of the top lane now. Now that has to be top, and we're still floundering when it comes to the bottom lane.
Bot lane's just the countryside for Sion farm up. You know.
In Australia, there is a station called Southern Cross Station. What do you reckon? That sounds pretty bottom lane.
That sounds great.
Yeah, all right, there we go. So Beryl, he took a train from Grand Central to Southern Cross, and now he's doing his best to stay alive. As Depth Charge comes in, bullet time, not going to be able to pick up the kill there, as we do have the Piercing Darkness able to keep the Scion alive. Effort once again having to flash as Ghost throws down the Dawning Shadow, but isn't able to find too much more. Speaking of finding things, Noggery gonna get another solo kill and walks away with his life. This is a disaster. And once again, we go back to the draft. This was Canna's like ace in the hole. You know, it's like, and we last picked the Rumble, baby. Like, and I thought that maybe they had a strategy for it, but it doesn't look like that was the case at all. There's now Effort taking a lot of damage here towards the bottom lane as throws out Roar of the Slayer to get that bit of extra poke onto Effort, who still doesn't have flash. Teddy in the same position.
Yeah, it seems like T1 is just putting so much focus on the bottom lane, but they're not really getting much out of it, and they're losing out so much in the top lane with Cannon not having any assistance. Canyon now free to roam around, puts the Herald down in the mid lane, is able to get a couple extra plates for himself and Showmaker. And T1, I almost feel like LM's just not in sync with Effort. It's not the same, you know, cooperation we've seen from him in the top lane. Oh boy, here's another pro game for Noggery.
Oh,
미드
God.
앞에? 바이게 달것 같아.
Just silent killing once again. A lot of comms about mid lane. That's about it.
I assume that. Did I hear an Eagle Boya?
Oh, I think so.
What's that?
Yeah.
Is that what that's?
Yeah,
that,
Eagle
that's
Boy
what
is
that
like,
means,
what
right?
is this? Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
that's the type of reaction.
That's what I think we just heard, and I really hope it was Noggery. Like, what? Wait, what?
Oh man, does not feel good for Canna in this game.
Not at all. But look, it's 3,000 gold, which is the advantage now for DAMWON. They're going to move towards the bottom side here as Beryl looks to try and get that turret plate. He's going to do so as Mountain Drake has spawned. Effort gets a good hook onto Beryl there, but now he's got his Soul Furnace. He's got everything, man. He's so incredibly strong, and now has his Sunfire Cape on the way, and with Ninja Tabi there, it's going to be difficult for Teddy to do damage to him before a couple of items do start rolling in. And the thing that's really scary about this comp from DAMWON is that their late game scaling is actually fantastic. Especially with the fact that this support Scion isn't a support. He's farming. Has teleport, for goodness sake. He's built like he's a top laner. But he's able to take Guardian for team fights because he's there in the bottom lane with somebody else. So this is real scary as Ocean Soul is coming up. DAMWON only 2 Drakes away from picking that one up.
I mean, quite frankly, either Mountain Soul or Ocean Soul, it would have been good news for T1 because both of them really counter what they might be able to do before they jump into a fight, especially with the Zoe, obviously with the shield from the Mountain and then the healing coming in from Ocean. But this does not bode well because now Beryl has a much easier time just building up. He just needs to build, you know, 1 maybe MR item just to make sure. Obviously, there's 2 strong magic damage carries. Oh.
Yeah, now the equalizer does come down. Canyon is here and does have Subjugate out, as you can see Noggery just partying on the equalizer. Cannon should be falling here as Canyon should be able to chomp him down and does so. So it's a 1-for-1, but that is a lot of gold going over to T1 as Beryl underneath this turret looking pretty comfortable. And Showmaker now behind enemy lines looking to try and take down Faker. He has the cleanse, doesn't have to use it there as Shifting Sands is enough distance to get him out of the way. Is now Effort in this brush. Piercing Darkness coming down there as Effort does discover that Ghost is in the area. And Faker and Effort will just push out this lane. So not out of the woods just yet at DAMWON.
Yeah, again, we see the focus in top lane, and things start to work out a little bit for T1. They just spent so much time in bottom. Ellen with the good timing and also the read with the ward. Great equalizer as well. It was such a good position when you go into that T-brush. You're able to put it down on top of the entire cross-section, and, you know, we saw the team kind of get separated. Eventually, Canada does still go down, and Canyon isn't going to mind picking up just one extra kill here to get them into that mid-game spurt. And a lot of turret plates here for DAMWON, and none for T1.
Yeah, not able to pick up anything there as, yeah, over 1,000 gold worth of a turret plate value. Definitely not bad at all, as Ghost ends up just sacrificing his health bar there for absolutely no gain on the Rift Herald. The second one, Shirley, coming up as Beryl down here towards the bottom side, just looking to take a train to Southern Cross, as you could see. But the bullet time rolling over Nogger. He's still going to be able to answer this, though. He's just too damn strong. Ellen's going to fall down. Noggery at 100 health, just straight up doesn't care. But the red carpet is going to be put down. Get your photo taken and head to the death chamber, my friend. He is going to do that, but still an advantage here for DAMWON bottom side of the map.
I think T1's forgetting that Sion can, at this point, basically match Nautilus, if not more, in both terms of CC and, of course, tankiness. He will outshine that Nautilus later. Wow, Beryl just dodging that bubble as well.
Yep, just blind. Oh, no, he did have a ward down there, so able to sidestep it quite nicely. Not able to get out of the way of the paddle star, but as you can see, in the mid lane, everything's just getting destroyed.
Beryl's happy about this.
Yeah, he's underneath the bottom side. He's going to try and flash out of the way. I don't know why he did that necessarily. As Faker picks up a flash, he will be able to get himself out of the way here. Utilizing that one, has his own as well, so double flashes are going to be up as the zombie Scion. Just buying as much time as they possibly can. And in the meantime, Canyon's top side with Shirley, just they're on a date. It's this beautiful meadow where there's nobody else. And eventually, this other guy, Ellen, comes up to hang out with his girlfriend. But it was a beautiful date while it lasted.
Yeah, I mean, DAMWON got 2 full inner turrets during that kind of fiasco down in bot lane, and they were able to pressure the mid inhibitor turret as well. Beryl going down after using his flash was a little unfortunate, but at the end of the day, DAMWON was pretty happy with the time spent. I mean, look at this. They thought they had this dive in. The hook actually, I think, brings Nuggery slightly out of that bullet time, so not able to maximize the damage. If he had taken, I think, 1 or 2 more bullets, things may have been a little different. But look at damage coming in from Nuggery as well. He got so fed in that top lane, and Kana not able to teleport in early enough. I wasn't able to keep an eye on why that happened. Eventually leads to that double kill. Beryl just buying time. Again, dying after using the flash, a little questionable. He was pretty dead anyway. I think trying to wait for Nuggery, but a second too late.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't mind, I guess, that the flash was utilized. I don't think he necessarily needed to. But it was all about buying time for the mid lane and for the top lane as they took turrets everywhere. And now Faker is getting routed. The train coming in once again. There's no station here. He's just straight off the tracks to try and take down this mid laner, and they are going to do that. Dawning Shadow finishes him off in the end. And now 1-1-1 for Faker. He's down 30 CS in that mid lane as well, as Showmaker's had a pretty good day so far. Sitting on an Oblivion Orb just to get him that extra magic penetration. And now Ellen in a little bit of trouble, but once again, Canyon not going to find the right angle on the pillar.
Yeah, despite the lead that DAMWON has, Canyon's pillars have been a little bit lackluster, but it hasn't deterred them too much. And we're going to see that Ocean Drake going over to DAMWON, getting them to Soul Point. And this feels bad for T1, because they want to be the one putting the pressure down, right? They want to be the one kind of forcing DAMWON to make a choice with that Zoe poking with the threat of the equalizer. Zoe's great when you're pushing and poking, because you can just jump in and out, you can jump across walls, but when you're getting chased, your kit isn't exactly that helpful. No. And DAMWON can also just kind of body some of that poke coming in from behind as well with the Scion.
Yeah, it's certainly a bad news bears storyline here, as Noggery just going to get to work on this turret, and Faker in the meantime is going to have to flash a pillar. That was a pretty good pillar to Canyon's credit. That was, and look, that was when it counted as well. This next one, don't really mind about that. You can get all of your botched ones out of the way when it doesn't really matter. That was certainly one that was able to lock Faker down, who has picked up a ghost with his unsealed spellbook now that that flash is on cooldown. And we hadn't actually spoken about that too much. It's been a while since we've seen the Unsealed Spellbook on the Zoe, but it means he will have a lot more flexibility when it comes to late game. The thing is, I don't know how much late game T1 are going to be allowed to experience, as we are looking towards an Ocean Soul coming up in 1 minute's time. Sorry, in 4 minutes' time. The Baron comes up in 1 minute, and that might be where DAMWON do want to look. 8-4 is currently the kill score, as we have a 6,000 gold lead for DAMWON. This is starting to become a blowout, and I just don't know the way back in here for T1, because their composition was supposed to play around mid-game. DAMWON's only going to get stronger.
Yeah, T1's definitely lost their timing. I mean, their best hope, and it feels bad, but is waiting for DAMWON to make a mistake. But so far, DAMWON seems to be pretty on point. Even Nuguri not really going off too far on his own, which really speaks to how focused DAMWON is as a team to pick up this win against T1. And if DAMWON are able to pick up the Baron, it's really bad news, because T1 doesn't really have too much power in clearing those waves just yet. We just saw the Leandry come up for Kana. Until now, he didn't even have that. So it's a little bit of a danger zone, whereas DAMWON can continue to push in and poke with the Azir, with the Senna, and even the Jace, and Sion can kind of just stay up front, especially if they're able to pick up the Ocean Soul afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in 2.5 minutes, it should be pretty easy for DAMWON to pick that one up, especially with Sun Turrets being able to be put down. With all of this K-ramming that we have going on, I think Sun Turret value is actually very, very high, which is, I think, largely to do with the resurgence that we've seen with this Azir, being able to play around that. You put that one up, and then you're able to get into that river pretty comfortably until the enemy team deals with it. I do want to correct myself. I think Chovy actually played with Unsealed Spellbook yesterday. Thank you so much, Killer Whales from chat, for putting that in all caps.
Well, but that feels especially worse for Faker then, because it's the same loadout, and merely less than 24 hours later, he is not doing so well.
And Faker didn't even take Scorch. Faker didn't even take Scorch. Feels bad, man. He made all the right choices. Never mind. I don't think this game is about Faker at all, really. I think this is about Noguri getting accelerated crazily, murdered there as Caster Curse strikes again. But I don't think this sort of was a game that happened all around Faker while he was trying to put out fires towards the bottom side. What they were focusing on was making sure that this Senna and Sion didn't get ahead in the earlier stages, and it just wasn't enough. As we even have an Athene's Unholy Grail on Ghost. He's gone full support mode, trying to get behind his Azir and Jace in this game.
Yeah, I mean, if Senna can provide the support from behind, a little bit of that CC, of course, that's about all they can ask for, because their front line is going to be so tanky. Just look at Beryl right now. He only has really 2 items worth of stats, and he's still stacked up so much health. Now we're going to see Nuguri finally being Nuguri in this game. It was
there we go.
A long time coming.
Yeah, I don't think they needed the equalizer necessarily. Look, sometimes
Kana
you
was
gotta get a
hungry.
kill. Yeah.
Kana had a really bad time in that lane against Nuguri. He needed to type in all chat. He just needed to make sure his number was on the scoreboard. All right.
Now sitting at a Mazda from the 90s, from the early 2000s, the 232. Wasn't the one that I owned. I had a 121. No one has that scoreline though, and no one has that car either, to be perfectly honest. That's certainly an old one. But DAMWON now looking to try and catch up to Faker here. The pillar, is it going to be a good one? The answer's no. It's a little bit too late there as Faker, maybe caught out of position here. Showmaker gets in there. Does still have the ultimate as Dawning Shadow is going to get stopwatched by Faker. That probably would have killed, to be perfectly honest, but is going to keep himself alive there with that item.
Yeah, I think they were just really scared because, again, both teams are very good at fighting in these close quarters, but they can't risk T1 getting a lucky break in those fights, especially with the bullet time. That would have been such an easy ultimate for Misfortune. So I think it was a smart move backing out. They secure the Ocean Soul off of that, so DAMWON is feeling very good.
Yep, and currently DAMWON are 5 deaths away from a perfect game. This is a team that struggles a lot to get perfect games because they need their top laner to die twice to be at full power. Does make things difficult, as now Effort possibly caught out. Oh man, he's not tanky without that Aftershock. He's going to go back to base now.
Wow, look at that damage coming in from Nuguri. I mean, and so much of that was purely against Kana as well early on.
Yeah.
And The Baron now, this might be what seals the fate against T1. With the Baron, with all 3 lanes cleared up, pushed up against the inhibitor turrets, DAMWON now has their choice. And if Nuguri is able to keep Faker at bay...
Ooh, bubble as Beryl. It's going to crash. And bullet time does come in, but Teddy's going to have that one cancelled pretty quickly. Canyon moves on back, and Showmaker is once again here. This is exactly what T1 did in their more recent match, I believe, up against Gen G. They were able to sneak away a Baron. No, it wasn't. It was against Griffin earlier on. As Beryl's going to have to flash to get himself out of here as now Showmaker. He does have ultimate available. We'll see whether he can actually utilize it, as there's the equalizer. Does actually a fair bit of work, but Cannon's going to have to get out of this fight now, down to 200. As Ellen's going to get stunned. Canyon flashes on in there as well as Faker finds the paddle star, but it's onto Beryl, who is so damn tanky. Shock Blast going to be flashed there. That would have been the death of effort, as the Trouble Bubble is going to go wide, and that's just a free pickup and a Baron here for DAMWON as they push in top lane.
Yeah, and they should be able to get this turret no problem. Potentially the inhibitor as well. We'll see how much they want to commit to it. They still do have the ultimate from Azir, so they can make something happen if they want, potentially ending the game, but T1 not getting too greedy.
Yep, Showmaker might be saving that one for the next game, as in goes the train. It lands onto the Nexus. There is a lot of damage onto the first Nexus turret as it goes down. Effort, no more Aftershock, no more life, as the kill onto the Nautilus is taken by Azir. And Beryl does fall down. Zombie mode is activated, but these Nexus turrets are going to follow suit. Paddlestar goes wide. Faker just taking poke damage from what feels like everywhere, as Canyon's just playing topside. You can see Showmaker just autoing down this Nexus. He still has Emperor's Divide, by the way, guys. He's looking for an excuse to use it, but I think the Nexus is going to go down too soon, and it does, as DAMWON destroy T1 in game 1.
Wow, that was a really good showing by DAMWON. I think they read what T1 was trying to do in the bottom lane very well. The Scion really proving itself. I mean, we were excited about the pick, and I'm so glad Beryl just played it to near perfection of what it was capable of doing. Not afraid of dying, soaking in all that, and even trading so well with that misfortune after a couple items in the lane. This was just a really good showing of Senna's power, despite her being nerfed statistically. Just the combination you can bring.
Exactly. She was like a 25% nerf on her stack value as well. So impressive stuff here for DAMWON, but I don't think this game really had much to do with Senna. She was building Athene's Unholy Grail. She was trying to build up the rest of her team. And the Scion had a great game, going from station to station. He didn't really go off the tracks too many times, maybe once towards that later team fight. But honestly, it felt like it was all done and dusted from there. And after the early game that Noguri had, it was just really hard for T1 to find any way back in. It was almost like T1 forgot how you have to draft against DAMWON. I almost said against Noguri, because that's how you do it. You try to shut this guy down, or at least keep him on even level, because if you give him a lane that he can get back-to-back solo kills in, you're going to lose almost every single time.
Yeah, I think what they needed was they needed to get the kills bottom lane, take down a couple of those plates, secure that first straight if they wanted to counter what Noguri is able to do on that Jace against the Rumble. But alas, they were too late, a little late.
Yeah, didn't quite work out, as I'm not sure what I can't hear Chobra anymore. Maybe you guys can, but we may have to ignore him as we go into these highlights. Oh, there he is. He's back. Welcome back.
Okay. All right.
That was very strange. As this was the gank onto Beryl. It did work out in the end, but look, see how many people there are here? Do you know what that means? That means this happens on the other side of the map.
Oh boy, poor Canna. And this was, I believe this was the second one, yeah, where he flashes out to safety. And Nuguri really put on quite a show.
Oh yeah, it was a clinic. And I think one of the cool stats here, when it comes to DAMWON, oftentimes we talk about DAMWON as having a neutralizing bottom lane that just tries to survive. And what T1 recognized here in this game is that it's fasting Senna. You know, this is a late game scaling bottom lane that can be abused in the early stages if you can. But what that does is it plays into DAMWON's hands. The way that we saw teams dismantling DAMWON was by ignoring the bottom lane completely, relying on their team just being better down there, and then being able to shut down the powerhouses that were Showmaker and Noguri during, 2019 Worlds and the 2019 season for a lot of our top teams. But that didn't happen here today. There were 4 people in the bottom lane for multiple ganks, and that has been proven time and time again to not work against a DAMWON team.
Yeah, obviously we have the advantage as casters and commentators to see everything from a sky-high view, but I think the problem was what we talked about constantly was T1 needed to spike up in that mid game, but they were so focused on shutting down this late game Scion and potentially the Senna as well, that they gave up their own window. If they had gotten the kills onto Showmaker or onto Nuguri and really buffed up that Rumble, getting his 2 core items early on, or if it's that Zoe that can now just roam around and pick up all the kills outside of the mid lane, things would have looked very different for T1. But alas, maybe just the Scion really caught them off guard, and they were a little too scared of it, I think.
Yeah, and you can see Showmaker here was looking for an Emperor's Divide, but he wanted it onto 5 people, I think, and therefore he just decided not to push the button here this game. As we have a look at Noguri's gigantic damage, Teddy was able to get a lot of work done as well, but I mean, this is what happens when you're in a lane against a Scion. He's very good at taking damage. He is exceptional at it, in fact, and therefore Teddy was throwing away a lot of that damage into this beefy train in the front line, and Noguri was standing back and getting, like, irremovable damage onto his opponents with the empowered shock blast that were just raining terror down on T1. So impressive game here from DAMWON, but I have a feeling that the same composition is not going to be seen again here in game number 2. And once again, blue side continues to be very dominant.
Yeah, very interesting stat that we mentioned during the draft as well, that with all the different priority picks out there right now, red side statistically seems like it should have an advantage, but blue side picking up maybe comfort picks has been what's the trend in LCK.
And also, not counterpicking when you have last pick.
That's true.
And you're against DAMWON. That blind pick Jace, there's lots of things you can do. So maybe we're going to go back to the drawing board and see a different draft here, as T1 will be moving over to the blue side right after the break.